Hello, Motorada World fans, and welcome to this live broadcast where we're going to be chatting to the team FIM Africa, who have recently just returned from the first ever FIM Intercontinental Games held at Jerez in Spain. You'll see it's a very packed studio that we've got here tonight. In fact, I'm going to let someone else in now. Abigail, our lady rider, she was in and now she's out. Is she back? Yes, Abigail is back. So yeah, we've got a full house of riders to chat to tonight. We've got Clinton Seller, Liungu, I never know how to say his surname, so I'm not going to even try. Dino Iotso hopefully will join us, but he's not in yet. Nicole Purificati, Damien Purificati, Chris Wright, KJ Monyanyana, Tay Jansen van Rensburg, and Abigail Besson. Everybody say hello.
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 No.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. So I'm going to literally just do this on a name-by-name basis. When I call your name, I'm asking you the question and you'll answer it. Everyone in the comments, El Camino, Luca Jefferson already saying hello. Thank you for joining us. Any questions for any one of the team riders, please just help yourself. And I'll keep a lookout in the comments and we can get as many questions in as we possibly can. Don't leave this all to myself just to do, please, because I think I might just run dry of some questions. So really get interactive, get as many of those questions as you possibly can. Gavin Serviceton, hi Robert. Gavin, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us in the land of YouTube. Yes, Sean, my brother's just messaged me saying, where's the Dunlop logo? I had to take it off because it was covering Liungu and Abigail's face. So a mention and a big shout out to Henderson Racing Products and Dunlop Tyres South Africa for sponsoring this show. Damien, I'm going to start with you because I spoke to you Donington earlier this year where I was able to come and watch the World Superbike round where Nicole was racing in the Women's World Championship there, and I got speaking to you. And you mentioned this Intercontinental Championship race to me for the first time. You were the team manager of the whole outfit. So yeah, just tell us a little bit how this all came about, how Damien Purificati became the team manager of this.
Well, yeah, that's a good question, Uncle Rob, as Brad calls you. I think I'm hoping it's because Nicole was high up in MSA and they were like, cool, well, we've got a fast chick rider for SA who managed to this year and in the past 5 years and in WCR, how did we do? So I think that's why I was selected to fill the role of team manager, but let me tell you guys, it was a journey. Lucky I bought a eSIM with lots of data because every time one of our riders came in, I got a phone call saying, please come to race direction.
I can imagine you were
it was a really cool experience and I tried my best and I did my best.
So heading into it, the rider selection and the team selection, I remember we spoke about it at Donington Park, and I know there were a couple of people up in arms, and there should have been a trial for it. Wada. I really got to thinking about it, and we were actually very spoiled for choice in terms of riders. I mean, apart from the talent that we had on display, the riders that we're talking to here, other than Dino Iotso, is not joining us. But there was a real good pot of riders to choose from. If you think of the riders that didn't make the cut, that could have quite easily made the cut, Kewan Snyman, Doran Loureiro, Sheridan Marias, Stephen Ord. There's so many names that could have been mentioned. Obviously, some of them in Sheridan's case because of his Portuguese, he races under the Portuguese license and various other things. But you were really spoiled for choice in terms of selecting the riders.
Yeah, so Rob, that was probably one of the most difficult things is I don't think a lot of people know what sort of criteria you have to meet to be selected for this journey. So, quick example, Nicole, she was racing WCR. She's been under the MSA banner for a decade. So obviously a great candidate. We've heard via the grapevine, but Jessica Howden would have been a good candidate. And yes, she would have been, but unfortunately, she's under a British passport. So one has to remember that all these things come into play when being selected as a rider for FIM Africa. You have to remember we were actually supposed to be FIM Africa, we only went with South African riders. So it was really a tough choice. I mean, Richaud was part of the team, and I think he would have done great. And then Arushim gave us a shout out saying, listen, I don't think we're going to join because it might be conflict of interest for the team he's going to. And at the end of the day, I think it's not conflict of interest because Team Oceania, Team Europe, we're all riding Yamaha R7s and R3s in a Continental World Cup. Obviously, you need competitors to compete. So surely those things shouldn't be an issue.
Oh God, sorry, now I've just put
Yeah. Abigail just blew up in Cape Town.
No, it's just like it's clearly the pretty face out of all of us. It's gravitating. I don't know. I'm doing it on my phone for the first time. There we go.
It's all good. It's all good.
You see now, this is what I'm not doing it on my phone. There we go. Layout. Multiple layout.
There's Rob. Gosh.
There we go. There I am. But now I'm big.
Now we've been sidelined just like our team.
I don't want to be big. Okay, so let's move on then. I'm going to move on to Clint Sello, the most experienced man on the team. Clint being a 75,000 time South African champion. Clint, this is something I remember. I think it was about 10, 12, could have even been 15 years ago. I did an article for then Ride Fast magazine that I was with about a potential World Cup of motorcycle racing, and my team South Africa was a Brad Binder, Sheridan Marias, I can't remember who else, but I put a Clint Sello in that team. Fast forward to now, and Clint Sello finally gets this opportunity. Is it? Again, some people could have said, why take Clint? It's R7s, it's R3s. There's maybe better suited riders to the smaller bikes, if you would. But certainly the CV that you've produced, the experience that you have, the championships and everything, not only on track but also off track, certainly would have, and I'm sure did benefit the team.
Rob, I must be honest, getting the phone call was almost surreal, if I'm honest. It didn't really actually feel real. You kind of, over the years, and there's been many, and I'm sure you remember as a rider as well, you get phoned to do opportunities in different places, and then inevitably the next phone call is to ask you for the next couple of 100,000 rand that you need to deposit somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And when Jackie from FIM Africa phoned me, I kind of, I almost didn't believe it, to be quite honest with you. It just seemed surreal. And I felt incredibly privileged to be selected. When I was selected, I didn't know it was R7s. I was told we're going racing and they're going to supply bikes. And man, I was hoping there were Yamaha R1s that were going to be supplied. Obviously not knowing at that time what the particular format would be. But Rob, it's not a bike I ride often. Mm-hmm. But the first session on Friday, I was P3, qualified third. I was actually, to be honest, I think it's probably the best I've ever ridden in my life. Certainly didn't put the result in on Saturday, on Sunday. But I was quite proud, and I am still quite proud of our team. I'm proud of myself. I didn't fall off on the first lap, and honestly, I was sitting in a really strong position in race one that I felt like, Dino was incredible. I must be honest. And Dino from the very first session, the very first lap, was a rider that was riding for the team. He was the most experienced at Jerez I didn't know the track from Borisov. When I walked around the track, I thought, whoa, this is fast. Like it's not fast because it's on, you think an R7 is going to be slow, Rob. I promise you, there were places I've never been flat out in my life. And on a 1000cc to go through there flat, you literally, the last thing you ever do. And on an R7, if you're not going flat, you're dead in the water. Mm. And, when I looked at the fact how the guys and looking at like how KJ as well played the team game, when in practice and qualifying, we went out together to almost to the point that you see there's other teams that would follow us to try get times off us because you had to draft. I mean, they're little bikes. So yeah, I really feel that. Yeah, I mean, we had a cool team, and honestly, on Friday and Saturday afternoon, I would have put us in the fight for the podium for sure. I think Europe did have an advantage for sure. I mean, it's their home ground. They had some riders that were fast. I mean, Rob, honestly, everyone was fast, and you can see it by the fact how many crashes there were of serious cats. I mean, serious people fell off because we were all pushing really hard. So I think that Europe had a little advantage, but Team Africa was very strong. Unfortunately, I think it fell apart a bit in the race, but you know what? I truly believe I hold my head up high, I think we were doing some special things, and I'm quite proud of the experience we gained. I think if this happens again, we're in a much stronger position as a continent to not only select our riders, but select team players. Because remember, at the end of the day, we were watching, Mahindra in the R3 race. I mean, he went to the front of the grid, into the lead. He could have run away, and him and KJ probably could have run away with the race, but he slowed the whole race down because he was playing a team game. And I think you've got to remember that the riders we had guys that were not there for themselves. They were there for a team, which was quite a special experience to be involved in.
Now, in terms of yourself, as you said, strong performance in qualifying. The practices was really looking good. First time at Jerez, first time on the R7, a lot of it adapting to do, but you seem to get on with it, bringing that experience and the talent that you've shown over the years. But you did have a couple of incidents, and then unfortunately had to pull out of race 2. So tell us, what happened and the injuries you suffered and the journey since then.
Yeah, Rob. So I mean, like I am, I guess I do it flat out always, and where I crashed was literally the fastest place that I could fall off. And just unfortunately, what happened is between turn 11 and between turning 11 and 12. 12 is a flat out right-hander, and I was flat out. I was turning in from the curb, and it just flat out on the gas. It tucked the front. It's not something I expected to happen. I thought I was not at a place where that would happen, but anyway, obviously I was, and I made an error. And listen, the bike was good. The team was amazing. I'd made an error. And unfortunately, when I was skidding along in the kitty litter, the big wing in the back of my helmet hooked the gravel, and the gravel, quite a few of us this weekend got to experience it. It's very heavy, it's very thick, and it felt like it took my neck and disconnected my neck from the rest of my body. And I had I kind of, to be honest, thought that I'd done some bad damage to my body, and neck is not a good area to hurt. Mm-hmm. And it took me a minute to get up, and when I got up, I realized that I'd done some damage that I was lucky to walk away from, but also knowing that if I went out again, even though I didn't tell the medical team that I'd hurt my neck or anything, because you never tell anybody. You keep it quiet. It's your little secret. And I could walk and everything, so I was fine. But I knew that my neck muscles were not in a position that if I did have an incident again, I would potentially be relying on my spine to do the saving, which is, not a good place to be in. So, I could see at that stage, unfortunately, we had lost quite a lot of points with crashes, myself included, and the R3 situation where we had very little points scored. So discretion was as Ricky Moraes would say, the discretion was the better part of valor. And at the end of the day, I wanted to come home, and I wanted to come home when we were supposed to, and not be sitting in a hospital in Seville, in Spain, because I made a bad decision.
Yeah, it's certainly being the racer that you are, that I've known over the years, that's not always an easy decision to make. But as you said, the bigger picture is something you most often have to look at, and I'm glad you got to look at that. There's a question here that I think I'm going to throw to Damien's way. It's from Kewan Snyman, a rider that could have easily made this team, again, in that pool of riders that we're just actually spoiled with the amount of talent that we've got in South Africa. But the question everyone wants to ask, what is the situation with crash damage costs at this event? Who pays? So, Damien, I suppose this is a broad question of that, in this situation, was there money that each rider had to pay per crash or whatever, and also upfront costs, flights, accommodation. How did this all work? Was it a FIM Africa where, right, you selected the riders, there's the team, you're all paid for, or is it typical, coming from South Africa motorcycle racing where it's, we want you to be part of a team, but you've got to pay massive amounts of money?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Kewen. I sort of deleted that memory out of my brain. I'm hoping that there's no bill coming because I don't think. Look, I did give the wrong email address coming from Africa. So as far as we know, FIM covered everything. I mean, the bus, the buses, the food, the accommodation, everything was covered by them. And parts and extra fairings, rear sets, handlebars, everything was supplied. And I'm very glad that I had met the guys from, they called JRR, Japan Italy Racing. They're the ones who supplied the bikes. And I'm very glad to have met them because I had to go ask them for so many parts. And it got to a point where I was like, damn, we need some more. And we don't know yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But as far as I know, FIM's covered everything.
Okay, that's good to know. I like the idea of giving the wrong
email.
That's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. I'm going to move on to KJ because they've chosen KJ. If you can just unmute yourself, so we can speak to KJ. KJ, for those who don't know, and I'm sure a lot of you do know, we've got a lot of people in the comments saying hello to KJ and to the whole team, #Team Africa. So you've got a lot of supporters in this journey that we've all been on. Very exciting. I mean, we'll touch upon it a bit more. But KJ's had a very busy season racing in the junior championship, in the Red Bull Rookies for the first time, and now representing Team Africa in the Intercontinental Games. So KJ, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And just give us a brief little highlights of the busy season that you've had and include being included in Team FIM Africa and your experience at the games.
Hi, Uncle Rob. Hi, everyone. KJ here. And I just wanted to say, this year has been obviously a busy year, as I said, running 2 championships. It was quite really, really tough season too, adapting a lot to the change of level of racing, and it was obviously a lot of training and everything has been put into this kind of racing to be well prepared for the seasons that were coming ahead. Obviously last year in the preseason we trained a lot to try and get me very prepared for almost like a really high level of racing. And off the track I've had a lot of I've learned a lot off the track and on the track, always keep professionalism and everything. So on my professional side, I think I've learned also a lot this year. And being in this FIM Africa team is really a great privilege. When I got notified that I was accepted for the team, it was a really important privilege to try and boost Africa as a nation of racing. And it's a really, as I say, a privilege to be there racing for the country and for the continent. And it was obviously with everyone in the team, we had to put in a lot of teamwork also to try and get the best results possible. And that's what we shown like this weekend. We were helping each other wherever we could, off the track, on the track, and we all clicked along. We got along, and it was really nice as everyone could show their potential on track, and it was a really awesome event. Everything was planned out, no misses, no anything wrong about the event. It was really cool, and I think it was really professional too, As I said, everything was on schedule. Everything was really well. And the races were really, really nice. I enjoyed my race, obviously, and I enjoyed racing for the team. It was really enjoyable. We have like people like Damien and the mechanics that helped us, encouraged us, and kept the team up, like pod, and it was really good that it was kept in a professional way. And this was a really, really good thing to see, coming from Africa. And that's what the others realized too. And on the track, we had really shown a lot of potential. I think in the races, in the R7s and the R3s, we showed potential, and from every other rider, And with my races in the R3 Cup, I was running in the front, and I just wanted to try and stay, close to the front, to the top three, control the race more, and because I didn't, obviously in the first race, I didn't know what to expect. Unfortunately, I did get a jump start, but when I got the double long lap, I only realized after 3 laps. Uh, I only realized when it was the ride through, as I was battling in the group, as I said, and I couldn't see the number or anything in the pitboard straight, and it was difficult to try and see that, but uh, that's why I only saw when I had the ride through penalty. I kind of only realized that it was my number because obviously we all were racing with different numbers, and my normal racing number is 45. So only after 2 laps I realized that I'm racing with 30. So it was kind of a shame that I got disqualified for the jump start. Obviously, me and Damien went to the race control to ask how did I get a jump start, as on our side we couldn't see anything causing or could potentially be a jump start. And unfortunately, at race control, they told us that they couldn't show any footage and stuff. So, but I didn't get a penalty for the second race, as it wasn't so confirmed that it was a jump start. So yeah, and the second race, we went out. Our team had a better race, and we were all running good. I was kind of also again trying to control the racing more in the front, and place myself in a good position to try and get maximum points for the team. It was a really good race until like I got taken out in turn 12 in the lead, passed by Mahindra, which is a really, really fast corner. But luckily, I didn't get any injuries. I just walked away, and I'm lucky that it wasn't obviously a lot of injuries that happened to me, just a bit of neck pain, but we got it sorted out.
It's exciting, KJ, and I think you've done an incredible job for the amount of racing. And I remember being young and thinking, oh, it's the greatest thing in the world, just travel the world and ride bikes. But there's that human element, and there's that element of, missing your comfort zones, missing your friends, your family. You have to sacrifice a lot. It's not just a case of you get to ride and do nothing else. There's a lot of training involved. There's a lot of hard work that goes behind the scenes that often gets overlooked. And I think one big plus that you had in your corner this year in the Red Bull rookie certainly is you had a certain Mr. Alan John Fenter, who, by the way, Damien says thanks for all the crash balls and that, because the 2025 race license fees are going to go up for everyone next year now because of all the crash damage and your wrong email address. But KJ, it must have just been, to finish off, it must have been a little bit comforting having someone like AJ Fenton in your corner to kind of go on this journey with you, certainly for the Red Bull rookie side, and then on the World Championship side or the Junior Championship side, having Rushay Mudley in that same championship to kind of just have a familiar face there to help you through.
Yes, AJ also played a big role in preparing me for the season. Obviously, at the races, I couldn't ask for anyone better as a mechanic. He really helped me on my mental side also, because is a really mental game racing in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, and he helped me a lot. I appreciate that because also when I'm back at home, we train together. We also train as he since as he's a rider also he understands what goes through a rider's mind and a young person's mind racing at such a high level as racing and stuff. And I think it's a really a good privilege of on my side that I have AJ alongside me. And in Junior GP, also at the Red Rookies Cup, Rocher, also we help each other. You know, a really nice guy. You know, we obviously talk a lot. You know, and it's a really nice thing that I have another fellow South African out there that has more experience than me that obviously gave me some support, and obviously me looking up to him throughout the years and finally racing alongside him was also a privilege, which really appreciated that. And now since he's moving up to the Moto3 World Championship, it's a really nice thing that obviously his progress going through from Red Bull Rookies Cup and Junior GP to the Moto3 World Championship.
Yeah, Alex, Leongo did tuck the front. Leongo's all over the show. Just like he's on a racetrack, he's on his cell phone the same. He just tucks the front and it's just wild. KJ, just to finish off with you, obviously there's the big talk, surrounding KTM and their racing, and obviously Red Bull Rookies ties into that with the financial trouble and that. Have you had any word, you're obviously participating in the championship next year again, have you had any confirmation that you're definitely going to be there, or have riders been told to wait and hang on, or any kind of news you can give us?
So far, nothing has been said out so far. We've just been going as normal procedures, obviously submitting our measurements for suits and stuff and putting our logos and stuff. So far, we haven't had any stuff said about KTM's situation, but so far everything's going the way it should go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, KJ. I'm going to now bring in Abigail Basson. There we go. There's our Abigail. I'm going to unmute her. Now, there we go. Abigail, how are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Very good, thanks. Now, Abigail, I must be honest, when the team sheet came out, Kinsella I knew because I've raced him, I've destroyed him plenty of times. Liungu, I know. Dino Yotso, I know. Nicole Purificati, I know because I've destroyed her plenty of times. Chris Wright, I know. KJ Monyanyani, I know. Taig, I know. Then I saw this Abigail Basson and I was like, who the hell is Abigail Basson? And then did a little bit of research and I found out she's a super fast lady rider from Cape Town. So to be part of this team, Abigail, just tell us, getting the phone call to be part of the team and just give us your general experience. In fact, rewind a little bit. Whose ever phone that is, I'm going to throw it out. I'm going to fly to SA, grab it and throw it out the window. But just give us a little bit of your history as well, because as I said, I don't know much about you. Give us a little bit of your racing history and then tell us about your journey with FIM Africa.
Okay, so yeah, I've mostly just been racing in Cape Town. I think I did one NSF training camp in Durban, and then other than that, it was basically just Cape Town and PE. Last year, I had Paul Maton message me saying he had a wildcard offer for me overseas in Imola, and then I took it up, and then this year it was actually so weird because I had my off day of work. And I was so fast asleep when my mom calls me awake, and our aunt's still half asleep. She's like, "No, we're going to Spain." And I'm like, "What do you mean are we going?" But yeah, then she spoke a bit more and told me, "No, I've been invited to race in Spain in the FIM Intercontinental Games." It was honestly, I was over the moon. I read about it beforehand, and I was like, "No way will I ever be chosen for it." And then yeah, I did it last weekend, so really honored to be part of the team. We had brilliant races here. Most of the people everyone knows except for me. I remember on your one live show like this, you were going through the list and then you get to my name and you're like, oh, don't know who she is, but yeah. And it got beyond, and I was like, oh, okay.
I'm sorry about that, Abigail. I'm sorry, but I know who you are now. Cape Town. Joburg always separated Cape Town. It was like another country. So we never, we knew the Trevor Westmans and the Alex van der Bergs and all those guys there. But certainly a young and up and coming name. You've certainly already been a very busy girl in the world of motorcycle racing. Now tell us, the environment, being in that environment, being in that scene, competing against some of the fastest riders from around the world on a Yamaha R3. I don't know. I mean, compared to you're just racing around Killarney, now you're at Jerez. You've got to try and contain yourself, try and take in all the information. You've only got a Friday practice, a Saturday qualifying, and a Sunday race. I mean, just try and bottle all that emotion and all that experience for us.
Yeah, so for me it was quite hard, coming from a bumpy track like Kalani, and also my bike's also an R3, but it's like completely different towards these bikes that we were racing. So I went in with the mindset, no, it'll be the same, but it was not the same. But yeah, it's on and off track. It was brilliant meeting these riders. Like, I mean, I was chatting to Mahendra for a little bit, where he's like World Supersport 300 champion, and it's really nice connecting with people there as well as like fighting on track with them. Honestly, I wish I did better in the race, but unfortunately for a high side in racing, I finished race 2. But yeah, hopefully I get an opportunity like this again. And it really did highlight points where I struggled more at, like technique wise and everything, and where I'm like sort of on par with them. But yeah, so it was really a meaningful experience for me. And yeah, I'm so glad I made so much connections with all the other riders. And yeah, I loved it.
And how was it? I mean, it must have been painful working with the men on the team, but having Nicole part of the team, you know, the fastest lady rider Africa has probably ever seen. It must have been quite an experience for you to have her by your side.
Yeah, we don't talk about the guys at
No,
the team, but
no.
Nicole, she was amazing to work with. Like, she helped me a lot. Um, she gave me like pointers where after she was declared unfit, where she'd go stand on a corner and be like, oh no, this is where they're breaking and everything like that. And it really did help me a lot during the race. And I'm very grateful to meet her. She's like an inspiration to me.
Thank you.
Still going through like with the broken fever and still like on par she wants to race. It's really an inspiration.
Thanks, Abby.
You know, I've beaten her lots of times.
I've beaten him too.
Abby, thanks. Stay with us. I'm going to mute you quickly, and I'm going to bring in the lady that we're talking about. I don't know, Nicole, whether to call you Nicole van Asvegen or Purificat. Like, it's just
Purificati, but Van Asvegen, because I haven't changed my ID yet.
Don't worry, Amy did the same. Amy was Amy McBride for a long time before she eventually changed her name. But Nicole, this is something, again, it was a tough one because we all knew the injury that you were carrying, and again, that Jessica Harden conversation was there. You know, afterwards we found out that it wasn't that it's as simple as just throwing Jessica on the team. I think you did a fantastic job to recover from the injury, get yourself ready to even be on that plane to go. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for you because, you know, I spent the time with you. I've spent a lot of time with you at racetracks, and I spent the time with you at Donington. If there was anyone more deserving of this opportunity, certainly Clint Seller is another one, yourself being the two longest standing part of this team that have been in this rat race of a motorcycle industry now for the past 20 years, 15, 20 years, you know, gone through the highs, gone through the lows, and still digging away at it. So first of all, obviously, give us a little bit of how your season went in the Women's World Championship, and then, you know, being involved with the Intercontinental Games, and then unfortunately that weekend that happened but didn't happen for you.
Okay, Rob. So thank you very much for actually saying that I deserve to be there, because I honestly do feel that I do. I mean, I've been with motorsport for years and years and years and helped them, and they've helped me. So I really do think that I belong there. But my racing season, you saw in Donington, I did have a hard time there because I never knew the track, and it started raining and it was just chaos. And that was my worst result, I think. I finished 14th. But Portimao was one of my favorite tracks, and I had tested there, so I knew this was it. And race 1 came, and I came 9th, but my ideal lap time was 5th place. So race 2, I was like, come on, you got to not be scared anymore. You got to get this, like, be the old Nicole. And unfortunately, another rider that closed the door on me, so I panicked and grabbed front brakes, and it was just a horrible crash. And ended up in 40 Mile Hospital for 11 days. No one speaking English. It was crazy, Rob, and especially at my age, with my daughter coming into hospital, seeing me with traction, weights hanging out of my leg, and it wasn't nice. So, yeah, it hit me hard, and I still said to Damien, I don't think I'm ever going to come back from this. And then we got into the meeting with FIM Africa. Well, before that, they asked me to be a part of it, and they phoned me and they said, Nicole, are you sure you're going to be able to do it? And I said, I'm going to. And I trained my heart out. Rob, if I can tell you how much, you can ask Damien, I came home in tears of pain, but I trained and I went to boxing, I cycled, I did everything I could. And when I got to Spain, I had a bit of doubt because my x-rays showed my bone was still very broken. If I could show you the x-rays, it's still a big hole. And went, and Monica, the FIM doctor, was actually amazing. She's like, go and ride again the next day. I did 22 laps on Friday, which was the most I've done since my crash. So already I was a little bit sore. So Saturday I thought, let me pace myself. Did 7 laps of first practice, came in. They called me in, I think, and they said, no, they're going to review me after the second practice and then let me know if I could qualify. So I went out, and I knew I had to do more than 7 laps, but I was only 2 seconds off the girls off the first practice. So I thought, well, listen, let's hold back, and Sunday, then you give it your all. So then you're not as sore. And unfortunately, they've got cameras everywhere. They saw, well, after 7 laps, her times are dropping and she keeps coming in. And they asked me why. And I said, well, I'm pacing myself because of pain. And they said, no, that's it. And to be honest, I cried. And the doctor said to me, cry, I'll hug you, but I think it's the best decision, which it was, because look how many crashes there were. And imagine I was taken out. I would have had another year of being injured. And I felt bad for the team because I thought I let them down. But yeah, I was there and I gave it my all.
I think it's not just a case of, certainly you were going to be used on track and that was where you were really going to be good. But again, like Abigail said, off track, with your experience with the World Championship that you had done up to that point before the crash, I think you were a vital part of the team. I do think you deserved it, as I said, because of the time and effort that you've put into it, and the money, the resources. I mean, you've helped carry Motorsport South Africa when there hasn't been a Motorsport South Africa to carry, as is the Clint Seller. In fact, all the riders here, and there's a massive list that can go to that. Just quickly, Nicole, I before we came on, I actually thought about the Women's World Championship, and I can't help but be proud, excited, amazed by that championship. When it was first mentioned, obviously there's the hype of finally, and then you kind of think, oh gosh, okay, how many FOST women are there actually out there? Are we going to watch 2 ladies, And I must say, I watched the first couple of races on TV. It was great being at Donington and knowing how fast you are and how well you can adapt and, everything that is Nicole. And I saw how fast some of those other ladies were. I just thought, I remember standing on the grid with you looking there and thinking, and I think we had the conversation where, there were so many people going on Facebook and saying if it was me or everyone's the fastest person on the planet. And I looked at it and I went, you know what? These girls deserve every bit of airtime they had. And I think it was a brilliant showcasing of the talent that's out there. And I hope it continues for many years to come. And from your side, I mean, what are the chances or the opportunities of potentially doing it again? Because the first year was always going to be a year of adapting, learning, not only the tracks, but you're traveling, you're doing it on such a crazy budget, a small budget. I know talking to you, a lot of the pressure you felt was not even on track; it was off track. How do you, in England, for instance, you guys were sharing a piece of chicken by, through the 5 of you that were there. You were, sleeping in a baby cot. You were really doing things on a shoestring budget, and that always plays on your mind. You're not climbing on a bike. You're looking at Herrera and all the other girls there who are purely focused on, I'm getting paid to be here. My job is to go perform on the track. You're thinking, right, if I crash, I've got to pay this. My daughter's got school. Tonight, what are we going to do for dinner? How are we going to, you're thinking all these other elements rather than just and I could see it. I could see you were thinking 20% of the actual racing, and the rest of the 80% was stressing about other elements that are involved with it all.
Yeah, so Rob, to be honest, I wish this happened when I was in your team in 2011, because then I would have given it a proper go, you know. A lot of the girls, okay, biggest problem there is you get 25 minutes to learn a track. So a lot of the girls actually moved from Australia and moved from America to live in Europe because they could go test at all the tracks. And we don't have the money for that. I mean, my Portimao test cost us 70,000 Rand, no jokes. And it rained, you know, so we couldn't do it in that sense. And you asked me if I can do it next year. To be honest, if it was the same tracks, maybe we would have thought about it because I'd been there then. Then I'd know, I know. But next year it's different tracks again. So it's Magny-Cours, it's Assen, you know. There, I spoke to Robbie Pontiani. She was at the FIM Africa. She's not even doing the European Championship because she's going to use the money to go test at those tracks. So you can't compete if you're not living there. And it's so sad because, you know, it's my life. You do. But in all honesty, I can't afford it. So I'll be racing in SA again.
Listen, that's not a bad thing to have you there. We'll come back to you now. I think Damien's going to have to start selling his body on the side of the road a bit more. So hang around, Damien and Nicole. I'll come back to you. I'm going to introduce who have we got here. Taig. Let me unmute Taig here quickly with it. The gun show. The gun show is in the house. Now, Taig, another rider that maybe hasn't had the deserved airtime that he maybe should have, a rider with international experience coming from short circuit racing as Chris Wright, KJ, Liungu, you know, not the old school kind of Clint Sellers and Nicole that have come from the way back short circuit racing, but certainly a rider that came up pretty quickly, proved his talent, and you've had some international experience now racing Supersport 300 machines in Italy and all over the show. So I think another worthy contender or certainly participant within the team. Give us a quick little, for those who don't know, a quick little brief history on Taig's racing career so far, and then again this journey of being involved with the Intercontinental Games and the weekend that was.
Okay, perfect. So basically this year we were racing the new ZX 400RR, and it was a new bike, of course. So going into the year, we were a bit worried because it's a new bike, there's a lot of development, and we were chosen to go and do it. We had a really good year. The first race of the year I won, and we were feeling really strong. Then unfortunately, when we went to Vallelunga, I just lost a lot of confidence in myself on the motorbike, and I just didn't have the pace. So I finished 5th. And then Mugello, we had problems with my rear tire because there weren't enough. So we had to use a Dunlop instead of a Pirelli. And then we got like a ride through in the pit, and it was just a big mess up. Then the last race of the year, Mugello, I went in because I knew it was the end of my season. And race 1, I finished 2nd. Race 2, I finished 2nd. And I also qualified in pole position. So we were over the moon because we thought it was like the end of the year for us and the last race. Then I got home and my dad called me to his office and he told me about the phone call received and how we can go race for Africa in the Intercontinental Games. I was beyond happy. I was like really nervous for the Intercontinental Games because I knew those people would be really fast. And I knew we've never been to the track, never ridden an R3 in our life. So I trained really hard towards the Intercontinental Games. And when we went over the first session, I picked up the track really well. But it was just a lot to take in, learning the bike and the track and everything of it. Then qualifying, we got a decent qualifying. I think I was 13th. So we were super chuffed with that. Then in race 1, unfortunately, I was pushing a bit too hard, trying to be a bit too aggressive, and I crashed and I hit another American, and it was just a big problem. Then going into race 2, I think the mind was a bit stronger, knowing we could like be there. And unfortunately, the rider in front of me broke the group, so I wasn't able to hold on to the group. And I just didn't have the slipstream to try to stay with the group. So I finished also, I think, 10th and 11th place. But overall, it was a good weekend. I just want to say thanks to my team. Thanks to everyone who made it possible. It was a big privilege to be there and a huge opportunity for all the riders.
So obviously racing in Italy, as you said, on that Kawasaki machine, how different was it than climbing on the Yamaha R3? And in terms of specs, I mean, Abigail mentioned it earlier, her local Yamaha R3 that's probably got a pipe and a, modified Martin Petzold suspension or something. How different was the rules there? Were you riding pretty much stock standard R3s, or were they just World Supersport spec R3s?
I think the R3s were pretty stock standard. There wasn't really much to them. I mean, all the riders were complaining about the brakes from beginning of the weekend until the end of the weekend. Usually on a full race bike, you never have problems with the brakes and just small things like that. The ZX 400RR that I raced overseas this year was a fully prepped bike. The only thing that was stock pretty much was the harness and the motor, and so it was a pretty stock class. So, and the bike's a lot stronger than the R3. So when I got on the R3, I was like, this thing doesn't have much horsepower.
And in terms of, you spoke about your results there in Italy that you had this year. You've obviously proven yourself at an international level. Are there any plans in the pipelines for next year? Obviously, we know coming from South Africa, there's money involved, and that's the main drawback of coming from South Africa. But any plans to continue racing abroad next year?
Yeah, so when we were in Jerez, my team boss of Italy came and surprised me and Chris to come and watch us race. So it was like a really special moment and sentimental to us. And he came to us and he told us about this new Triumph class that'll be opening up next year. So I phoned my dad. I said, Dad, obviously he's in Spain, instead of the ZX 400R, like the Triumph, please, because it's obviously got a lot more horsepower and I think will be like a bigger class. So I phoned my dad. My dad said, sweet, like sign the contract while you're there. So I spoke to my team boss, told him we're all in, we want to race the Triumph, came back to South Africa, and then I signed the form today to say we'll be joining the team.
Oh, that's fantastic news. That sounds, is it like a Moto 2 style class with Triumph engines, or is it stock bikes, or what kind of class is it?
So it's more of just a Triumph with like some race fairings. It won't really look like a Moto 2 in any way, shape, or form. It's more just like a race Triumph.
And is that in the Italian Championship?
Yeah, so I'll be racing it in CIV.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, hang around with us. We'll do another little chat with you, a little goodbye once we've catched up with all the riders. Yeah, let's bring in Mr. Chris Wright. Let me unmute him here. I'm getting good at this director thing. Chris Wright. Now, here's a name that I've certainly known, and I think the motorcycle industry certainly known. A top up-and-coming youngster for many, many, many years now. I think the talent's always been there. Certainly, resources have always been your Achilles heel. Not having the big amounts of money that are needed to go World Championship racing. Although you've managed to do it at the level you had, as Take said, his teammate racing over in Italy with some really good success there. You've done some other international stuff as well. So, Chris, just give us a little indication of the season that you've had on the international stage and being a part of this amazing FIM Africa team, and how your race weekend went.
Yeah, how's it, Uncle Robert? It's been a long time since I've chatted to you, but I mean, yeah, like you said, I've been racing in Italy this year on board a Supersport 300 or 400 Kawasaki, and yeah, no, I mean, it was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I only did half of the season, but we'll get into that later. But I mean, yeah, no, last year was my first year racing internationally, and I showed decent form. Obviously made a lot of mistakes as my rookie year, but I mean, we brought home a lot of positives, and I think we were very optimistic for this year. My sights were set for the top 3 of the championship, and I mean, I really felt really confident. And yeah, first race of the year at Misano, we did have a bit of problems with the bike, just setting it up. So that race wasn't really the greatest. I think I finished like 5th or something like that. So yeah, I wasn't really too happy about that because I was just hungry to be in the front. And then Vallelunga came around, and I got the opportunity to do that. From I think Thursday practice, I felt so confident, and yeah, no, we ended up getting a podium at Vallelunga. And then Mugello came, and Mugello, I've never been really fast at Mugello, even though I love the track. But I mean, yeah, I've never really been fast there. But yeah, also a weekend where I showed some good potential, and then the rain came along, and yeah, I mean, I didn't know I was going to be as fast as I was, but yeah, clearly I'm just like a duck to water, And yeah, no, the conditions were really tricky, and we managed to pull the win out. And Yeah, I mean, just the first half of the season, we had so much confidence, so much momentum, and I was really looking forward to the second half of the season. And then, yeah, we got the phone call, we got an email to say we got disqualified, or actually at the track. And yeah, we were a bit up in arms about it. I mean, the reason, because we bought our tire in the beginning of the year, our rain tire, and we were supposed to buy it that weekend. I don't know. It's a long story. But yeah, so then they ended up disqualifying me, and my team was also a bit miffed about it, because they, as a team, they invest their money, and it's a big deal. A lot of promotional work gets done, and especially when you get a podium or when you win. And so they were quite angry about that, and they decided to call it quits for that class after Mugello. And then yeah, they kind of left me without a ride, so I was a bit upset. But I mean, yeah, I'd kind of proven what I needed to prove, and obviously I wanted to prove so much more and win the championship, and or at least get top 3. And then yeah, and then we waited, I think 6 months down the line, or it's like 4 months down the line, they phoned us and they were like, okay, no, we'll give you a win back. But I mean, by then I'd already missed 2 races, and championship was over. But yeah, and then to my surprise, I get a phone call from my dad, and he's like, oh no, there's this thing in Spain. And I was like, this sounds like, it didn't sound real. Like Clint said, it just sounded way too good to be true. And I was like, sure. Like, at first I felt honestly so honored. I mean, for MSA to look at me as a rider to represent Africa, honestly, I felt so honored to just be a part of it. And yeah, like Clint said, just everything was so unreal about it. I mean, I think it really started hitting home when we got to the airport, and the team was there together, and the team colors, and everything was taking form. And I mean, what an experience. I mean, from when we left in South Africa until we came back, it was just honestly so amazing. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I think we came last in the championship they had, or however it worked. But I mean, I don't think it was a true reflection of our team. I mean, we really had some strong riders, and we showed it. I mean, the 300 class KJ, I mean, I think, always in the front, P1 in some of the sessions, and we really showed some good speed, and especially with Dino and I mean, Clint, they were constantly at the top of the leaderboards, and we really showed some strong pace. And yeah, I think it's just we really got unlucky. It's just one of those things. With motorsport, you can be really good, but you've also got to have a little bit of luck. But yeah, I mean, for my side, for my weekend, it was a bit frustrating because in qualifying, my lap got cancelled, my fastest lap, and I think it would have put me about 11th or 10th on the grid. But unfortunately, I started 18th, and yeah, that was a bit. And the thing is, with Supersport 300, you've really got to get your qualifying right, because I mean, I don't know if you saw the race. I mean, it's just absolute chaos from the beginning. It's just chaos. So yeah, I was kind of bummed out about that. I really wanted to do, or just qualify like around the middle of the grid, and just make our way from there. But nevertheless, I kept a positive mindset. That you can only go one way forward if you're at the back. So yeah, I mean, you can only go forward. So yeah, I had a positive mindset, and yeah, I was really hungry to do well, and I think I made up about 10 places in race 1, and the same in race 2. So I came 8th in both my races, and at least we brought home some points. But I would have definitely liked to be fighting in the front with KJ, and I think had we qualified in 10th, I think it would have been possible. But I mean, nevertheless, I think as a team we gained so much knowledge and experience for the following years. If this has to happen again, honestly, I do think we're going to be a team to contend for the top 3. And I mean, because I feel like also a lot of the teams look at us as the underdogs. Yeah, I know we've got the Brad Binders and the Darren Binders, and our boys in America, they're doing so well. But I mean, I feel like we were kind of overlooked. And yeah, I definitely feel like they've got something coming for them in the following years. And yeah, no, it was just such an amazing experience. I mean, to everyone involved that made it happen, from my side, I can't thank them enough. And yeah, it's definitely left an indelible mark in my heart, and I think it's something I'm going to take with me for a very long time. So yeah.
Well, Chris, well said. Brilliant stuff. We'll come back to you to find out what your plans are for next year. But if you all needed some kind of encouragement, we've got a Robbie Peterson who's just commented saying, proud of you all. Sean Claessens as well. Well done, Team Africa. Thanks for flying the flag. And I think you can pat yourselves on the back. Yeah, it's not the results. Certainly, I look at it and I look at that the team on and the names on the paper going into the weekend. I was like, this is it. Finally, South Africa is going to show the world what we're really made of. And as I said, there's so many other riders we could have put on this. You mentioned it. Matthew Scholz, Cam Peterson, there's Jared Schultz, Brett Roberts. There's so many riders that we could, Dominic Doyle. There's so many riders that we haven't even mentioned in this. So it was, I'm glad it happened because it was finally a chance to showcase Africa on an international level. Yes, we didn't get the results we wanted to, but there's plenty more to come. So you guys can be really proud of what you've done and what's to come. So Chris, I'm going to mute you quickly, and I'm going to bring Clint Seller in here because I know he's got a movie night with his beautiful family, so I don't want to keep him anymore. So I'm just going to finish off here and mute Clint. So Clint, looking back at it now with your experience and everything that you've been through, the ups and downs, the highs and lows of racing, you've raced in America, you've won there, you should have been given a multi-million dollar contract, you didn't get it being from Africa, you've known the challenges of trying to get money to go racing. You must unmute yourself, by the way, Clint. Just quickly, I'm trying to think of how I can say this. What's missing? You guys went there, you've got the talent, what's missing for Africa to really put its name on the map, to showcase themselves as, you've got to look at us more seriously. Africa's got to be taken more seriously. Just unmute yourself there, Clint. I think you're still muted. There we go,
Rob. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can, yeah.
Rob, I think, we've also got to remember, and I think a lot of the riders will agree with me, what's incredible is when we arrived at the pits on Wednesday, prior to any of us riding or anything like that, and you see the unbelievable setup and funds that are pumped into motorsport at that side of the world, it is quite an overwhelming thing. And I've done a few races overseas over the years and things like that, and even for me, it was an overwhelming exercise. It's something very different to what we used to, Rob. Where every session, every lap, every corner almost, and because as the team we were quite fast riders, we were on camera every lap, every corner almost. It's an overwhelming thing comparatively to what we are used to here, and I think we've got to understand that some of that big match temperament takes a minute or two to get used to. A rugby player's first time he plays a Springbok game is not at the World Cup, and I think our first game was at the World Cup. And it's an overwhelming factor. And I think you've got to understand that there's riders amongst us all that, yeah, we've dabbled in the world experience, but this was something very special and very unique and was a little bit overwhelming. But having said that, we're not slow learners, and we learned. We were fast. Maybe, certainly maybe we didn't close the game off and finish the match like we wanted, but we showed a lot of potential. And, like I've said many times in my life, you can always make a fast rider slow down, but you can't make a slow rider go fast. And we showed as a continent and as riders and South Africans, we are fast riders. We need to maybe manage that big match temperament a little bit better. And, I think, gosh, Brad didn't win the first race or didn't win his first world title in his first year. He was there for a few years and knocked on it hard. And guy like Shez, also spent time over there, worked hard, worked in those environments, got used to that world that's there. It's very different to us. It is, Rob, I mean, you and I raced for many, 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 many years here together in South Africa. And I've never had new tires every time I pulled out. It's just not something we do here. We race on budgets. But over there, we get new tires every single session. And, there's a lot of factors that we need to understand are different to what we normally exist in. And you know what, man, we didn't cross the line like we wanted to, but we showed we were fast. But I think we learned a lot as a team, as an experience for following years. And you know what, I'd be extraordinarily proud to see an African team in 2 years' time at the next games take the experience that this team has had and take it to where we know what we're going into. We're in a zone where we understand it, and we can actually convert those results into the reality of how fast we are. So, yeah, I mean, we didn't cross the line like we wanted to, but I'm still really proud of each individual that gave their efforts this weekend.
I think you nailed it on the head there, Clint. And I was going to say that, honestly, and I'm speaking honestly and openly here, when I saw the results, I phoned my brother who covered it on Motor Rider World superbly. So a big thank you to him. And I was actually quite cross because I was like, what are these guys doing? We should have walked this thing, especially from the practice session, looking at it. Then I had to kind of slap myself on the side of the head a little bit. And I said, I've been in this situation before. I've been at World Superbikes sitting with Sheridan. I was at the World Women's Championship at Donington with Nicole. And I've just mentioned it. I've been around the world. I've been with Brad. I've been with Darren. I've been everywhere. And exactly like what you said, it's that big match temperament. It's that South Africans at that level. And as Rodney White sharply says, money is everything. We've sacrificed so much. It's almost like, I only have this chance, so I've got to prove myself. But then it just lamps all that pressure on, and then we almost go above and beyond, and that's when the mistakes come, and we actually fail at it. But because, as you said, it's the World Cup, you get this one opportunity, and I've seen it time and time again. I know the talent of you, Shez, and everyone. The Brad and the Darren have been fortunate enough to get that next chance, where then it clicked. And now they've shown, now we know the huge talent that we are. Nicole.
Well, I think when it becomes your home, hey, Rob, for us, Red Star, Swartkorps, Killarney, Pekisa, those are our home. When we arrive there, we're in our home, you know what I mean? All we're doing is we're applying our trade and doing what we know we're good at. When you arrive at someone else's home in their ring, and to be fair, over the practices and qualifyings, our Africa team put a few noses out of joint. But having said that, those boys also caught a wake up as well and started to really pick up their pace and put the pressure. And, we saw guys in the race that, Mike Jones is a guy that's Australian Australian champion, but he raced MotoGP. He's a guy that, oh my gosh, I watch every race of theirs. I'm a fan. I'm honestly a fan of the guy. And I was racing against him. And, man, I was giving him a harding. I was quicker. But, those are the worlds that those guys exist in and day out. We go to work Monday, and that's the reality is. So I think that, if we could put together a team that are become very comfortable in that environment, and that becomes our home, then I think, we're on a real even keel. And I think that the speed and talent like we have here, and we dabbled a little bit on the weekend to show it, it comes out prevalently and shows when we cross the line on the Sunday.
I think, key point there is, without singling him out because it was a team effort, but KJ Monyanyano, who, as you said, lived that world this year, in both Red Bull rookies and that, and went out there and he, in inverted commas, was a top performer in the 300s. And again, with Dino Iotso, who lives that world, and again, was a top performer in the R7. So I think, as you said, I think you've got it absolutely spot on there. It's literally us not being exposed to that level enough. But as you said, and as Alex van der Berg says, if they do this in the future at a Kalami, or, as you said, if they come to our house, it's a different story.
Oh, Rob, I can promise you, absolutely. We showed we could ride a motorbike over the weekend, and I think that the key points are there, but the finer details take time. You don't become a master in a day, and I think we were a lot of us trying to become masters in their hometown in 3 days. And I'm not going to say, listen, the FIM did an incredible job of giving us the track time that was necessary, but there was a lot of factors that were involved. And listen, I make no excuses. I've been around this game for too many years, and excuses are for the weak. But man, we gave it our biggest effort, and I think when you take a smack like we did on Sunday with our team's results, the important part is that we learned, and I think the learning factor was gargantuan for us. There was massive learnings from us, from the mechanics, from the crew chiefs, from Damien as a manager. I don't think none of us even knew that you could get in trouble during a practice session. But there's 4,000 cameras watching every move you do. You know, this is a whole new world for us. It's a whole new world, Rob. And I think once we're comfortable in that world, the talent and the cream will rise to the top for sure.
Awesome. Clint, thank you so much for your insight as one of the most experienced. As I said, I was bashing my head against the cupboard when I saw those results and that you weren't in race 2. I was like, for God's sake.
Sorry, Rob. I tried. I promise I tried, boy.
I know you did. I know you did. But as you said, when you're put in that environment, it's very easy to be outside of that environment, like I was talking about with Nicole earlier. And even still today with us, all of us, with Brad Binder in MotoGP, on this side, it's a much easier. Oh, how can you do that? It's very easy to point fingers and say, but I think it is that frustration of, because I know and we know what we have, and it's just that wasn't the real Clint Seller. The real Clint Seller was shown on the Friday and the Saturday in a way, but not on the Sunday, if you know what I mean. Same for a lot of the riders, and that's the frustrating point. It's like, come to South Africa, or look at what I've seen in all the years gone past. The same with Nicole, the same with Chris. I feel old. I don't know how you feel, but I feel ancient seeing Chris ride with a beard. It's just like crazy because we met these kids when they were like 7 years old, running around trying to steal our vases and our boots and stuff.
Rob, I got to tell a story. So the head of the FIM, when I qualified third, came down to the African pit, to congratulate the riders that were in the top 3 after the press conference. And he goes to Dino and, congratulations, amazing, and Dino did an incredible job. And then he came over to look at bike 25, which was my bike. And sort of I was standing there chatting to Steve, and he looked at me and he goes, "Oh gosh, you're not young." And I was like, "Wow, thanks, giving it a crack here, boss." So Rob, if you want to feel old, boy, go to an FIM Games. Then it really puts you in your place.
Listen, my son, at least you fit in the leathers. That wouldn't be able to supply.
Hey, listen, 20 years ago, I used to use your IDs to get into clubs. So,
Yeah, that's for another day. That's not for you. Clint, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much. I value the opinion. I think you've done a great job, and let's hope we can see you there in a couple of years' time again. For now, go and enjoy your movie night that I've already dented, and enjoy your family.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Emil, and appreciate all the support for the African team. And well done to all the riders, and thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Cool. Clint, you can exit yourself. I'm going to try and see if I can bring in here Leongu, who we haven't spoken to yet. Not Damien and Nix. Let's see. Can I? There he is. Let's unmute him quickly. He's been waiting patiently. Now, Leongu, unmute yourself, my son. Don't tuck the... There he is. There's our Leongu. How are you, my buddy?
Yourself, Rob.
That's lekker. Thank you. The Brooklyn Brawler in the house. Now, Leongu, let's talk here. I'm going to try and put this as kindly as I can. Probably one of the most naturally talented riders I've seen on a motorbike around a racetrack, but one of the most outrageous motorcycle riders I've also seen on a racetrack because of the pure, just the way you just go balls to the wall and it's uncontrollable at times. Sheridan Seller, real Clint Seller, came home safe to his family. Sheridan Seller, that's all that it's about. And I'm so glad that he had the mindset to make the decision, and he came home to his beautiful wife and 2 kids. So, brilliant job there from Clint, and well done for supporting him in everything that he does. So, Leongu, tell us quickly. It must have been a real privilege being called up to the team. You've obviously done some international racing now. You raced the Ducati this year in some championships. So just tell us about the championship that you raced this year, and then being involved with FIM Africa and how your race weekend went there.
Rob, like you're saying, this year I was riding the Ducati. It was my first year on the Ducati in the Spanish Championship, ESPK. It's the same championship Steven rides in. And like you were mentioning, it's first year. I guess you can call it first year grace. I had a lot of crashing this year, a lot of crashes. But it's all part of the development, I believe. For the second year to come back stronger. Progression wise, I think I'm doing well. I started just outside the points, and then in the points, then top 10, then top 5, and then I had a very big accident during training. That's where I tore my meniscus 2 months out of the games. That's when you already knew about the games. And then that injury, it kind of set me back because I couldn't train, because obviously cardio, you need your legs, you know, in terms of running, maybe not for rowing, maybe a little bit, but you need, you know, your knees. It's a very important joint in your body. So I couldn't train. Then I just went back downhill, and then towards the end, that's when I got my top 4. And then Jerez was you know, the last mile. I'm talking about my last race now, was a bit of a wake up call because there was a lot of World Superbike riders. And then yeah, like we were all saying, when we got told, I got told by Uncle Craig, it's my second dad. He told me like, yo, you've been selected to race FIM in the ICG games. I was like, okay, that's pretty big. You know, it's not a small thing. The fact that you're going to an FIM event, I don't think it's, you know, there's no small FIM event. And I was looking at the names, some very big names. Arrived there the Wednesday. No, we arrived the Monday. Obviously, I've been to Jerez. That was a very big advantage for me. And then like just walking through, like I think it was me, KJ, and Dean that have been around Jerez. So we were just like kind of like letting the people know, like, you know, this is how it is, this, that, you know, just giving tips that we think they may need, you know, telling them which corners we'll probably think will be flat out. Obviously, riding the Ducati around Jerez and riding the R7, I can tell you, Uncle Rob, it's not the same at all.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
way scarier than the Ducati. But yeah, then we came Friday, the 1 hour session, practice session. I didn't go out with Sela and Dean because the type of rider I am, like I like to do a lot of laps alone, you know, and I want to know that I can do the lap time by myself without like, you know, going balls to the wall, as you said that I used to be, and crashing a lot. And then I think I put myself P12 or P11, somewhere not a bad position at all. And then if P1 had done the same, I think P10. If P2 I had a big crash, I had a high side, which I was kind of winded. Like I couldn't move for a second, so I was able to catch my breath. And then qualifying, I was managed to put myself in P9. I do believe I could have put myself a bit higher, but that's another story to be told. And then race 1, crashed first corner, first lap. I got caught off guard by how hard the European guy broke. He broke in front of me, and then I went over the curbs, and then that just made me lose the front. Race 2, I got a bad start. I was stuck in the second group, but it was so windy. I knew I could catch up. You know, I could catch the front group. So I was like, just calm down. And then it started raining, and you can ask the whole team. Literally all weekend, Uncle Rob, I've been begging for the rain.
Yeah.
Literally been praying for the rain because I know like how, you know, fast riders in the rain aren't fast. You know what I mean? Some of them are very quick. Some of them like yeah, you know, they take a step back, and I'm one of those riders who, when it starts raining, it's like, you know, I'm hyped because I know that people are going to be cautious, and I'm just there like get in my rhythm and bang, bang, bang. So that's what we did in race 2. We led a couple of laps. I was trying to bring Dean along with me, because I saw like in some of the corners Dean wasn't as quick. I'm not saying he's a slow rider, but I mean in the rain, like I'm saying, it's a big difference, you know. So I tried to bring Dean. I was looking back, trying to bring Dean with me, and then I just thought at one stage of the race, I was like, okay, now I'm just gonna put my head down and I'm gonna try to break the pack, because obviously now Africa was down on points, you know, with Abby not racing, Stella also not racing. I couldn't see ourselves really being competitive, so not to sound selfish, but I went more for personal glory, if you know what I mean, because like I say, we were on the standings. And then I think it was lap 5 or lap 6, 6 laps to go, so lap 4. The guy from Latin America crashed in front of, like, just right next to me, and he just missed my motorbike. And that like caught me, because you know in the rain you have to be smooth and you have to like get into a rhythm, and you can break a lap by lap by lap. So then when I saw that and he just missed my bike, I was like taken aback, you know, like it was like thrown off, you know. So then I managed to regather myself, and then I think I was running in P2 for P3, P2 in the podium positions most of the race. And I think Uncle Rob, I may have overworked the Dunlop rain tire. So like towards those last few laps, being picked, like people just started picking me off. And then I tried to make an aggressive move on the riders, which didn't work in my favor. I went wide and then I crossed the line first. But nevertheless, was a great experience. We had a phenomenal team. I don't think I could ask for a better group than the people I went with this year. And yeah, I really did enjoy. Hopefully the next games I can go again and represent the continent.
So to end off with you, Leongo, what are the plans now for next year? Have you got any plans in motion? Obviously racing abroad again or back in South Africa?
So yeah, next year we're gonna be running the Ducati again, same championship. But this year different goals. We're gonna try be more of a competitive rider, as lack of a better word. So yeah, we're gonna focus on maybe trying to get the championship. And then maybe do a wild card in World Super Sport. That's what we're hoping for. Obviously, we'll just see how I'm progressing. But yeah, the plans for next year, we're gonna ride the Ducati V2 again in the same championship.
Good man. Well, Leonga, it's been great to catch up with you, and a great job that you did there. As I said, for everyone, very much a learning experience. You're doing a fantastic job representing yourself and South Africa over in the CRV Championship as well. So just keep doing what you're doing, and best of luck for next year.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Okay, my buddy, so you can leave us. Let's go end off here with Abigail quickly. So Abigail, welcome back. Let's unmute Abigail. There she is. Thank you for being patient, Abigail. Let's just finish off with you now. Clint Siller was talking about that World Cup, that environment, and maybe buckling under the pressure in a way. Do you feel like that's something that maybe happened to you?
Honestly, like, yeah, there were challenges. Knowing that my racing here versus the racing there is very different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that I did not learn yet.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense where I'm like, oh, these people, like, we had the one riders activity where like 3-year-old, 4-year-olds were going around in the town square just doing laps on their bikes, and I'm like, oh, only like started later on. And also I don't have availability at the track as often as most people do.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I am lacking in certain areas, especially with back brakes. Like, I don't know how to use back brakes at all. Like, I've never touched back brakes besides when I'm on the grass or doing motocross. So that was a big change for me. I'm definitely going to try it out as soon as I get back on track. But it really is, there is a difference between if you look at European riders versus South African riders. Like, European riders, they have so much more practice, everything. Me, I work like job to job, go racing when I have free time, come back, work again. Like, I came back on Tuesday, and then Wednesday I had to be back at work again. So, like Clint said, it's very different. Like, I can't just go and ride when I want to. I have to look at my work schedule, be like, oh, okay, these days I can go ride and everything like that. So it really is different compared to European riders. Like Anna Karaska, I look at her Instagram stories and I'm like, oh, she's training, she's riding almost every single day. I don't have that opportunity to do that.
Do you find? I mean, I've seen it many times over. Coming from Cape Town, you've had fantastic riders. Trevor Westmont, Greg Dreyer was a multiple South African champion. Alex, there's loads of riders that have come there, but at the same time, and I use maybe Trevor Westmont as one of the examples. I remember racing Dino De Vet and all those guys. But do you think you're restricted? I mean, you are restricted in the fact that you have one racetrack to ride, Killarney. As you said, now you go to Jerez, and all of a sudden this track turns left a couple of more times than Killarney does, and it's not as bumpy and that. So I mean, you were, out of all the riders here, probably the one thrown in the deep end, let's call it, the most, because of, as you said, experience with little things like the use of a back brake, different track environment and that. So, a very big learning curve for you compared to the others.
So, I actually race for Trevor Westmont's team now. So you can see the differences, like, Trevor, like, he's a phenomenal rider. Has he ever raced overseas? I'm not too sure. I don't think so. But it's like, you look at his talent and it's like, oh no, he's never gotten the opportunity. Same with Slade van der Kerk. Like, he's a phenomenal rider, I started racing with him since I started racing, and like seeing where he is now, I always not really feel the sense of guilt, but like I'm like, oh, I'm an international rider, but knowing that he's slightly better than me on some bikes. So I'm like always like, where has his opportunity been? And also sponsorship wise, coming from Cape Town, like there's sponsors here and there, but it's not as big as what it would be in Joburg or in Europe or in Australia or in America. It's really such small like sponsors, like they'll pay for your tires and that will be it. They're not willing to pay more than that. So that is the disadvantage of where we come from. And then Kalani Motorsport isn't really that big. Like Joburg, I think they have 3 racetracks. Like you have Kyalami, Racestar, Vereniging. Those are close by. Where Cape Town, we only have Cape Town. Or you have to drive 8 hours to go to PE to race there, or 12 hours to go to Joburg. It's at a disadvantage for us in a sense.
It is, Abby, but continue doing all the hard work that you're doing. Hopefully something pays off. Hopefully this exposure that you've got from being part of the team, showcasing your talents in the way that you did and everything, hopefully that opens some doors for you, and hopefully we could see your name on the international stage a bit more.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, Abigail, and hopefully we're chatting to you again in the future.
Okay, perfect. It was really nice chatting to you.
Cool. Cheers, Abigail. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Let's now finish off with Chris Wright. Let's just finish off with Chrissy here. Let's unmute him. So, Chris, to finish off with you now, I think you can pretty much agree with everything that's being said here. I think the most frustrating part, and as I said, seeing you with a beard just makes me feel really old. But the frustrating thing for me is, again, that I know the talent that is there with you, with Leungu, with every single rider here. Does more need to be done? You've seen it now on an international level. You've seen the Italian Federation support the Italian riders, the Spanish, these games. You know, you saw riders going there with that mentality of, I'm a racer, not I want to be a racer, but I've got to go home and work and try not get injured because they're there to race. Is enough being done to kind of support the dreams of like yourself and everyone else with the talents that you've got to really become motorcycle racers from Africa?
Yeah, no, Uncle Roberts. I think coming from South Africa, it's a bit of a tricky situation. I'm also I'm not really fond of making excuses, but I mean, when you just don't have the currency to compete with these other countries, honestly, it does make it a bit difficult. I mean, there's guys trying in South Africa, trying everything to just, stick together a championship just for us to race in. And even then, guys are still struggling with costs, running the bikes, and, they don't struggle with that in Europe. Like you said, I mean, from when they choose, they choose 2 things. They're either going to go play soccer or they're going to race a motorbike. And from when they choose that they're going to race a motorbike, that's all they do, And they do have the facilities. I mean, they've got the championships there. I mean, hence why we go over there, But yeah, it's difficult to say because, like I said, there's guys, organizations trying everything just to give us an opportunity to race, and it does make it difficult. But with that being said, look, we're not shy on talent at all. Honestly, I do believe that South Africa, the riders that come out of South Africa and Africa, honestly have so much talent. We just got to get given the same opportunity as them, and that's what happened to us. And I think we learned so much from it. Like, I think with this group of people that went, I think it really changed our perspective. I think we know now what to do. We don't. I don't think if we have to go again next year or whenever it is, I don't think we're going to go there and be overwhelmed by everything, because like Clint said earlier, I mean, it is overwhelming. You're getting the new tires every session, and I mean, it's just in South Africa we ride with the same set of tires for about like like half the year, you know. And if now that you have the facilities to actually go fast, I mean, the track was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it looked good on TV, but to walk it, I mean, the track is honestly in such pristine condition. You know, you get given the facilities to go fast, and that's I think the problem in South Africa. We've got the facilities, but I mean, you know, we've only really got a Kyalami that's world class, you know. And yeah, like Abigail said earlier on, I mean, for her, I think it must have been so difficult, you know, coming from a track like Killarney. You can't even look at the curb. I mean, it's like a bathroom tile.
Yeah.
Where going to a ref, you can just absolutely 100% brake on the curb and turn in on the curb, and it's got more grip than the asphalt. So yeah, it's a bit difficult in that sense. But I mean, I feel like the boys and girls that have been over there overseas that have, you know, left their mark in the championships in Europe, I think they know what to expect now, you know. But yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a difficult situation, I think, for us coming from South Africa.
It is, and I think you've summed it up perfectly there. All I can say is pretty much what I've told you and your dad from day one, is just keep fighting the fight. Let's hope that you can be on the international stage again next year. You've already proven your talent. Unfortunately, to prove that talent comes with money and a lot of support and a lot of tough times ahead. So keep fighting the fight. Again, just like Abigail, hopefully this has potentially opened some doors, you know, on this international stage. Some eyes have seen the name, seen you out on track, and hopefully something can come from it, because you certainly deserve to be there.
Yeah, no, thanks, Uncle Rob. I really appreciate the chat. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone that put this whole event together, and for us to be even here speaking to you. I mean, it really means a lot to not only me, but to the whole team. And yeah, to show the world, you know, that us Africans, us South Africans, you know, we're not to be messed with. But yeah, no, thanks for the chat, Uncle Rob.
Okay, my bad. Keep well. Let's go finish off now with Taig. Let's bring Taig, Taig, you can unmute yourself. There we go. So Taig, let's finish off with you then. You said, you know, with this Triumph Championship and that you're going to be involved with next year. Realistically, knowing the heights that is MotoGP and World Superbikes, you know, realistically, what is the aim that you'd really like to achieve with your racing career?
I think, to be honest, I think our whole goal for racing is just to have as much fun as possible, do the best we can, ride our hearts out, and while we can, we'll do it, and just see where we get to, you know.
Okay, well, it's easier said than done. At least you are having fun with it. But all we can say is just give it your best shot, carry on doing what you're doing, and yeah, the best of luck for next year. And well done being a part of this games. And I'm sure you've certainly learned a lot from that weekend in your race.
100%. Thank you so much for having me, Uncle Rob.
Pleasure, my buddy. Let's now grab over KJ. KJ is back with us. Let's unmute KJ. KJ, you can unmute yourself. Damien, Nicole, I see you've gone. Just if you can rejoin, please. I just want to have a final word with Damien and Nicole. But KJ, let's end off with you here. Then we've spoken about the season that you had, the hard work that you've put in. I just look at this and now how much you've learnt in this 1 year being exposed to the European scene with rider coaches, the way they work in the pits, you know, like Clint said, the big facilities, the new tires, the working with the crew chiefs and how they understand things. Is that the biggest thing that's missing from South Africa, is that we just don't have that foundation of that kind of setup? You know, ideally we should be having an AJ Fenter, a Nicole, a Sheridan, a Clint Seller, surely setting up kind of a race academy to say, you know, right, this is what to expect. This is how to present yourself, you know, behind the microphone, you know, just doing interviews. This is how you should attack each session. This is, Abigail was talking about using back brake, you know. That was something when I grew up and I went and raced overseas for the first time, I saw riders were using back brakes and I was like, I just thought there was an extra pedal there. I never used to use it, you know, but in Europe, you're exposed to just to a higher level of racing. Is that something that's missing in South Africa, that ground foundation?
Uncle Rob, I think it is kind of a big deal, obviously, in racing in South Africa. Obviously, being exposed to all these tracks, the professionalism also plays a big role. Being in a team which is really whole thing that you're exposed to is really good because it feeds you with knowledge, and this team helps you to become better. Obviously, being exposed to data also is a real big factor in racing, and which is what I really got exposed to this year. Like in Red Bull Rookies Cup, we're even getting media training, just for the interviews and stuff, just to be more prepared uh, for upcoming stuff, and being exposed to all of this is really a big thing that when I came from South Africa, I was really just exposed to going on track, putting on tire warmers, coming back off the track, and maybe not debriefing and stuff with the team or with someone of how everything was. Obviously you just have a mechanic in South Africa and tell him maybe I'm feeling a bit of bumps in this corner and stuff. But when you're overseas, you have this data where you can see the lines. The team obviously gives you a big understanding and feeds you with knowledge of how to ride a bike to the maximum limit, and this is a really big advantage, as I said, which is differentiates and separates the South African racing and the European racing. Um, Also, the trainings, the training is very professional. Obviously this year at the beginning of the year in January, I moved to Spain for training, uh, and I experienced this whole year how training is, how everything is putting to the work of becoming obviously a champion, and how the Spaniards actually train, and it's a really, really, really scheduled training sessions that everyone has that is makes them obviously big in Spain and makes motor racing big. That's why we have our Marc Marquez, our Pedro Costas, because they put a lot also into their training. It's not just going to a track day, putting on tire warmers and going. It's the training where it involves everything. Maybe having a mechanic there, obviously being there. Um, they also learn. We also learn to give feedback to the team, or to someone, because feedback. If you don't know how to explain what's happening with your bike, how you want it to be, it's going to be a waste of time riding the bike, that you're not comfortable with. So being also on a comfortable level with your bike and your understanding of riding a motorcycle, what it's doing, it gives you an advantage of be getting an extra mile, or an extra second a lap. So it's a really big difference. Even with the way that they train in groups. What I've realized is that they like to train with other riders to try and get feedback from others. Be with them. It also helps you to understand different riding styles, different scenarios in a race that can happen, or in a practice session. Um, it's really, really, really something that we need in South Africa, like an academy that some big races, big names of South Africa can bring back this knowledge to feed our riders with this knowledge, so the young and upcoming riders can have more of a step towards going to European racing, racing internationally, wherever they want to go, And this can be a really good thing in South Africa if our races racing internationally can obviously have this funding to South Africa to obviously build this maybe training academy, as you said, to try and bring up the youngsters of South Africa to race. So, me coming from short circuit racing, obviously MRSSA racing, and jumping to the ranks of CIV, pre Moto 3, Moto 3, and then going to the Red Bull Rookies Cup and Moto 3 Junior World Championship, it was a really, really big step. I think out of my 7 years of racing, I've been racing overseas now for 4 years. So yes, it's really, really a lot of stuff that I've learned over these past years has really gave me a lot of knowledge and shown and I've shown my professionalism off the track and on the track, as we also get taught this in Spain, how the riders are really professional off track. You know, you don't just put on your helmet and go. You have to be focused 5 minutes before, because all in all, this is a game of risking your life, you know, because racing is not something that you can just go out and expect to, you know, go crazy, because it can risk you with injuries. So I think in South Africa, if everything can go well with the right people and, you know, having that financial support, it will be really nice for to see other South Africans showing up on the international stage and putting South Africa on the map.
Talking about South Africans on the map, you were in the Red Bull rookies. I spoke about having AJ Fenter in your corner, which was a big help, but also having Rushay Moodley part of the same championship, a rider that you know, obviously a fellow South African, and then also Brad and Darren Binder. Tell us how it must be being in that environment. I mean, obviously watching it on TV for every youngster, for, you know, even me to this day, I still get goosebumps, and being at the track, and it's just, you know, it's a kid in a candy store moment. So that must have been a great experience for you.
Yes, being in the MotoGP paddock is my first time. When I arrived to the Jerez circuit at the MotoGP paddock, I was out of the, like, it was because it was my first time being at a MotoGP race weekend, and my dream was obviously to be in the MotoGP race weekend just to watch it live. Now all of a sudden I'm putting up to the paddock and I'm racing on the same weekend as them. So for me it was unreal. I mean, we went to AJ. I think on the Thursday in Jerez, I went in. You know, obviously I got the card, the pass to go into the thing, and it was insane. The moment I walked in, first thing I saw was, I remember the first MotoGP ride I saw live was Alex Marquez, and then I just got a picture, and then as we were walking down, it was surreal. I was making a video, and then I saw Brad Binder and Darren Binder, and I went up to them, and it was really, really cool seeing them again. Obviously, I saw Brad and Darren at the NSF 100 camp That's the last time I saw them, which was like 2019 or something like that. But it was really, really awesome being there, speaking to obviously my idols and people I look up to, and it gave me a lot of motivation for the season. Obviously, Brad was throughout the year. Brad, Darren, Rushay have helped me a lot this year. Throughout the races, Brad would come to the pit, or we'd see Brad and Darren in the hospitalities, and it would be really nice because we'd speak, and he would, you know, help me out where I would be struggling, and it was just a thing of building a bond with my idols, and it's a really awesome thing and a really surreal thing that I've experienced this year. It really gave me motivation. You know, at my lowest times, you know, I would always just feel like racing wasn't meant for me sometimes, you know, let's say I do a bad result or something like that. But looking up and seeing Brad and Darren and Rushay come up through all this, it gives me motivation to not stop, you know. Also my family, they give me a lot of motivation. My mom and my sister, I always think to myself, when I always ride for them. So it's a really a big privilege to have the people that I had this year around me to motivate me and push me.
Good man. Well, Robbie Peterson gives some great advice here. Be yourself too, KJ. Don't have to be a corporate clone. Nice to hear that you realize how important PR and behavior is, though. And I think that's something that you can never forget, is who you are, where you came from. I love the fact that you mentioned your mom and your sister there, and your family and everyone that supported you. It's about finding that balance between being yourself and being who and what the championship wants you to be. But at the end of the day, you've got to remember you're doing this for yourself, for your family, and don't lose that fun factor. You know, I've seen times, I've been there in times where Brad and Darren have done exactly what you just said. You question why you're there, should I be there? I've seen Sheridan Marias do it. I've seen some of the top riders in the world do it. You know, Cam Peterson, we've spoken to him before. You've just got to keep that self-belief and just keep keep your moral values, remember why you're there, and your talent will shine through at the end of the day. It's not letting this get in the way. So keep doing the job that you're doing. I think you did a great job this year. I've spoken to AJ a couple of times about it, and it's a tough environment for you to be in. As I said, we all look from the outside and, this kid's traveling the world in the MotoGP back in paddock, lucky him. We don't see the training, the sacrifice, the being away from home, away from your family and friends. The little things like growing up at school and going to school and standard 6, 7, and 8 and trying to get girls and kiss them and be naughty and stuff. You don't get to live that life. Yes, you're living a great life riding around the racetracks, but there's all that pressure that comes with it. So keep doing what you're doing. Try and control that pressure, because there is a lot of it. But don't forget, at the end of the day, who you are. Just carry on being that KJ that I saw with a natural talent growing up in short circuit racing. And let's hope that you can keep exposing it to the world. And we'll see you in the Moto3 and MotoGP World Championships with the likes of Brad, Darren, and Ruche in the not too distant future.
Yes, thank you, Uncle Rob, for having me on this the interview, and it was really nice also having the team and everyone speak. It was really nice also to see everyone back together again and speaking on the show. So it was really nice having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, we'll catch up with you again next year. Hopefully, be talking about some podiums and great results. But keep well, KJ, and best of luck, my bud. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
So I'm going to move myself there. I'm just going to remove KJ. So I actually wanted to try and catch up with Damien, ask him a couple of questions, but he has left. He's probably putting his beautiful daughter to bed. But it has been a long time. Just a final thought from me on this whole thing. While I love the FIM Intercontinental Games, I think it's a great idea. As I said, it's something I mentioned a World Cup about 10, 15 years ago. I can't remember. And this is me speaking openly and honestly. I hope FIM Africa, I hope it just wakes the system up a bit in terms of Africa. We've got the talent. We've got the names. We've got the talent. We've shown it, the Cam Petersons, the Matthew Scholz, the Brad Binders. The list is almost endless. As I said, the list in picking this Intercontinental team was almost endless. Something needs to be done. I think it's great that they've paid for the flights and the accommodation and everything, all the costs involved to go represent Africa. But that's not enough. There needs to be more done in Africa. And, I don't want to be biased here, but South Africa to hone these talents. If you're going to spend all that money, do it with the full assurity that we're sending a team that's not going to get the big hype jitters and make the mistakes of trying to prove themselves, because that's what we've had to do, their whole lives, is try and prove themselves. So instead of going out there and focusing on racing, you're focusing on other elements that are out of your control. So we've got the talent there. We've got the AJ Fenters. We've got the Cancellas. Set up a race academy. Teach these young riders like Abigail, who's talking about, I didn't even know how to use my back brake on a racetrack. These are the things we need to set up. So it's great that you've gone and spent this money, but in some way, it's also a slap in the face, because you haven't done anything to justify spending that money before. Take that money, set up a proper academy. I've had this conversation with Sheridan Moraes, who's based in South Africa, who's training, who flies over, gets paid by people to fly over to Portugal and other places to do one-on-one training with them. Mallory Dobbs is one that I've noticed in the Women's World Championship racing. You look at her progression from the beginning of the year to now. She was part of this games. You look at the progression, and she's had Sheridan as a one-on-one coach. It makes a difference, exposing our youngsters, and we've got loads of them in short circuit racing in Joburg, and the likes of Slade Frannikak, Ryan Frannikak's another rider in Joburg, Tristan Pinar in Cape Town. We need that foundation. Create that better foundation, so that if the games are going to return in 2 years' time, judging by what Clint was saying, it's going to be an every bye year kind of thing, which I think will be fantastic. We're sending the team there more prepared. It was almost throwing them in the deep end, is setting them up for failure, because we haven't built a foundation for them. So that's just my last little opinion. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I know it's been long, and it wasn't as normally as smooth sailing as the Talking MotoGP. I've been trying to do it off my phone now. I've learned the process now. So thank you for being patient. Thank you to everyone for the comments. Robbie Peterson, always a pleasure to have you joining in. And yeah, let's hope that something comes from this Intercontinental Games, that some positive comes from it. Let's hope that FIM Africa, Motorsport South Africa, have learned something from this, and we can get a better foundation to really showcase what we can. We should have gone there and won that games. I was disappointed, as I said to Clint. I was horrified with the results. Team FIM Africa did not deserve to finish last. No ways, with the talent that we had there. So Africa, Motorsport South Africa, let's do better to better equip our riders and support our riders locally and overseas to really represent Africa in the best way. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Stay tuned to the Motor Rider World Facebook page. I've got a Rushain Woodley interview set up for the next couple of weeks. Might be the first week in January. We'll try and get Darren and Brad Binder as well for a conversation there. We'll try and keep you as entertained as we possibly can. But for now, keep well, stay nice and healthy, and thank you so much for all your support. Goodbye.